Vision of Autodesk Inc. Socialcam is a smartphone application that makes it easy to create and share videos with friends. Socialcam has been installed on more than 20 million iPhone and Android devices around the world and was acquired by Autodesk in August 1st of 2012 for $60 million. Michael is also a part-time partner at Y Combinator, a startup accelerator that provides seed money, advice, investor introductions, and connections. Before Socialcam, Michael was the co-founder and CEO of Justin TV, the largest live video site on the web with more than 30 million monthly unique visitors. Michael, an 05 graduate of Yale University with a BA in political science. His thesis explored new method for predicting U.S. presidential elections.
Coming back to speak for the second year in a row is David Rusenko. He is the CEO and co-founder of Weebly, a tech startup based out of San Francisco, California. Weebly is an extremely simple and powerful way for anybody to create a website. The website you are visiting, now created through Weebly, more than 15 million people have created a website with Weebly, and 12% of the world's 12% of the U.S. population has visited a website created by Weebly.
Well, please, let's give a warm round of applause for Michael Seibel. Well, Michael, first of all, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Everyone really appreciates having you here. I think, let's get started by just hearing the story. So why don't you just talk about how you got into entrepreneurship in the very beginning?
Where's Justin? He's still here. Okay. So I graduated from Yale in 2005, and I worked on a political campaign for a year. And my friend emailed us and said, he emailed the kind of group of friends, and he said he was moving to San Francisco to start a startup where he would wear a camera on his head and broadcast his life 24/7. And we all agreed that was a bad idea. But he said he was taking a road trip across the country. And I kind of had a long campaign, so I was like, I can turn that into a vacation. So he didn't really offer people to join him, but I kind of asked if I could jump in this road trip with he and one of his friends, Emmett. And it turns out that they had packed all of their belongings in a small Honda Civic, and they'd sold anything that wouldn't fit in the car. So they had to sell a couple more things. But they said yes, and we drove across the country over 4.5 days. Came to San Francisco, and it was like the most beautiful day possible. It wasn't raining, it was sunny. It was October, and it was like warm, and it was Fleet Week, so the Blue Angels were flying over the city, which made it seem like, this is every day in San Francisco. You get like fighter jets and like beautiful weather. This is really nice. But we didn't actually go to San Francisco. We went to the suburbs to sleep on the floor of his cousin's house. That's when my vacation kind of took a turn for the not as fun. But long story short, they were doing some cool stuff, and I kind of wanted to be useful, so I helped them get an apartment. And at the end of the trip, Justin said, hey, instead of going down to DC and working and doing more politics, do you want to join Justin TV? And I said no. And he said, just think about it. And so I get on the plane, and I'm like, okay, thinking about it. And the same thought keeps on going through my head for the next couple of weeks, which is that, like, when's the next time your friend's going to ask you to quit your job and start a startup? Like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and politics every 4 years, every 2 years. And so, with a little bit more pushing, I said yes, left the campaign, got on a plane, and that was October 2006.
So one thing that might be interesting to people here is I've talked to a lot of people who are more on the business side who want to start a startup. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like and what you contributed early on the business side, not on the technical side?
I was horrible in the beginning. I was fairly useless. I got into a lot of arguments with my co-founders, which made them less productive. Don't do that. I think I helped by cooking and cleaning and paying the small number of bills we had. Business co-founders can tend to do more harm than good at certain points in companies. said, don't be that guy. But once we launched, there became more roles: customer support, press, investment, kind of the things that quote unquote business guys are good at. And so, I started being productive probably about 4 or 5 months in.
So, why don't we talk about getting evicted from Crystal Towers?
That was Justin's fault.
You want to tell that story?
So, I'm not sure as everyone knows, Justin TV, broadcasts his life 24/7, and so we would get pranked a lot. There'd be a lot of pranks, and basically people wanted to kind of figure out how to get stuff on the camera. So one time we were in Steve from Reddit's apartment, and we were looking out the window. We were pretty high up, and we saw like 6 fire trucks come streaming down like the avenue, maybe a mile away. We're like, God, there's got to be a huge fire somewhere. And they stop at our street, and they turn up, and they stop outside of our apartment building, and we're like, oh man, this is going to be a problem. And they can't take the elevator because there's a fire, right? So they have to like run up 8 flights of stairs, and they get to Steve's apartment. And we're like, there's no fire. So various things like this would happen in our apartment building, which gained us a certain amount of notoriety. We also had friends who lived in the apartment building who did horrible things, like these folks here. And so I think the final straw was, you have to be careful what you say in front of Justin because he's broadcasting. And so one day I was so frustrated. I was like, these people are lame. Like, they know where we live. It'd be so easy to just call the landlord and try to get us kicked out, like instead of all these stupid pranks. And that's what they did. So the landlord got, I think, more complaints than there were people living in the building about our apartment, but they knew everything about our apartment. So it was like, apartment, this number, like these guys. And then the Weebleys had a big party that went on till like 4 or 5 in the morning. And, they were able to kind of put together enough bad stuff. So we got evicted. Yeah. I feel like we're telling stories from my less productive years.
So let's move on and talk about growing the company. So going through sort of the rise of Justin TV, if you will, and what that looked like.
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't thought about this in a while. So I mean, we were all young. I think I didn't realize at the time. We thought kind of being young was cool, and it was, but we didn't really know much. So I guess I was 23. Justin and Emmett were 22, and our other co-founder, Kyle, was 21. And so we were really just winging it a lot. We always tried to hire really smart people. We had, the typical, had to fire the first, an early person. That was tough. Got our first office. We raised our first round of financing, all of these kind of milestones. But I would have to say that, it's funny. I talk to a lot of people who say, I'm going to work at a big company first to get experience. And, we learned more in those couple of years than you would be able to learn in any big company, maybe ever. And we made all these mistakes, but I think that, we're all on other companies now, and I think we can all appreciate what we learned there, and we all put it to really good use. So yeah, I mean, I think it was more like learning by screwing up, managing people who are older than you are, paying people a lot of money, and then they weren't productive. Just lots of bad stuff.
What was it like having to fire someone, and who's the one who had to do that?
I think, did I have the first fire? Yeah. Yeah, firing people sucks. So, there's this kind of thing like hire slow, fire fast. And I think we hired slow, but we didn't fire fast. We fired slow. And there was this guy we hired who I knew 6 months before I ended up firing him that he should be fired. And it just took me 6 months to kind of finally do it. And yeah, it was really hard. But this might sound really bad, but like it gets easier the more you do it. And I think it's an important skill. I think that no one's hiring process is perfect, and if you don't fire the people who aren't contributing to your company, the contributors will see that and they'll get new jobs. So that was a big important lesson for us.
So talking a little bit more about that, what kind of culture were you trying to build at Justin TV, and how'd that turn out?
Yeah, Justin TV, I think it was culture by accident, or maybe like it was our friendship culture, like multiplied to a company. I would say that we didn't really. We did all of the quote-unquote startup-y things. We had a nice office, we gave great benefits, and so on and so forth. But I don't think we kind of bought into it like a Zappos-style thing, and I don't think we had any high-minded ideas about it. I think we just wanted to make it a fun place for us to work, and we kind of tried to get people who would also fit into that. I think I thought a lot more about culture kind of my second company. Yeah.
What was your, if you have one that comes to mind, what was your favorite moment from the Justin TV days?
Yeah, I got a good one. So we had launched in March 2007, and we had exactly $20,000 in the bank, and we were using a CDN to deliver the live video. And so we got our first bill, and it was for $40,000. And, being the business guy, this was my responsibility to figure out. And it was awesome because if the bill had been like close to something we could pay, I think I would have tried to pay it. But the fact that it was double than all the money we had, it was just like this fun game. It was like, well, we definitely can't pay, so let's figure this out. And so first we called them. We were like, we love your service so much. We want to use you guys for like years. Can we sign a huge like year-long contract and like get a significantly discounted rate? And they were like, yeah, we love you guys too. Bam. And the second thing we did was we switch off with them immediately. So we don't use their service at all, like the second after we get that deal. So our usage drops to 0 and our bill drops to 0. And then they got bought by another company 2 months later. And our billing records got lost. So we called 2 months later and we're like, yeah, can we, as you can see from your records, usage records, we haven't been using you for a couple months. Can you just like terminate our contract? And they were like, yeah, no problem. Clearly you guys aren't using us. And so from a $40,000 bill, I think we paid like $3,000 or $4,000 of it. That was fun.
And how about a particular tough or maybe a low point?
Yeah, I almost lost $500,000. I was really close to losing $500,000. So Justin and I would always compete on the amount of money that we wasted in the company. And like, I think I was in the lead. I mean, I'd lost least, and then this thing happened. So our first round of funding was $2 million, and that was like more money than I ever heard of. And I kind of figured, well, we're not going to use this, so let's put some of it away somewhere where it'll be safe, but where like we can earn some interest or something. This is a dumb idea. Don't do this. And so we had this like banker who was like, oh, well, you should put it in these auction rate securities. They pay like 4% interest and like they're super safe. It's like cash. And it's like, okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Like, sign me up. So I hand him $500,000. And then about a year later, we're running low on money and it's time to like cash this out. And so I call him and he's like, oh yeah, they run the auctions once a week and nobody bought last week. No one. But like, it was probably an anomaly. So like, I'll just like wait another week and then we'll try to sell them and then should be fine. He didn't call me back for a month. And so I call him and I'm like, hey, that $500,000, where is that? And he's like, well, you might not have that anymore. You might be holding on to these things in your bank account and there's a $500,000 number next to them, but you can't really use that. It's more of a number than it is real money. So I freak out. And this is totally my bad. This is like 100% my fault. And none of my co-founders know. And so someone suggests to me that I try to find a buyer for our auction rate securities, which, thinking back, that sounds really stupid. Why would anyone buy them? But this was still pretty early in the crisis. So I actually found someone who would buy him 90 cents on the dollar. And we almost sold him to the guy, but then the bank ended up coming back and basically saying, we'll give you an interest-free loan to cover the money. And so it worked out. But in the middle of this whole thing, I would talk to my dad about it because I was so nervous. I also broke out in hives. It was like, one of the worst parts of my life. And my dad happened to be in town. So all the founders, my dad and my mom, I guess, we all went out to dinner. And I hadn't told anyone yet except for my dad. And so my dad casually brings up in conversation, yeah, so how's that auction rate security thing going? And I'm like, fuck. So I kick him under the table as hard as possible. And he looks at me and I'm like, and he shuts up, and I don't think anyone knew. Justin, did you know? No. Yes. So then got that loan. We got $450,000 up front, and we eventually got to $50,000. I think like a couple years ago. It took a while. So that was really, really bad. And so when I finally told my co-founders, I only lost $50,000, not $500,000. So that sucked.
So why don't we talk a little bit about transitioning from Justin TV into the 3 companies?
Yeah. So there was a point at Justin TV where basically we had got it profitable, but we kind of knew that it wasn't going to blow up and become something huge. So we kind of sat down and said, hey, let's use the money that's coming off of Justin TV to fund some new projects. And we came up with 2. One was called Twitch, and one was called Socialcam. And we said to ourselves, well, most likely both of these are going to fail, but let's give them 6 months. If one of them succeeds, we'll kind of invest all of the resources of the company into that one. And if both of them succeed, that seems like wildly unlikely, so we'll just figure it out then. Socialcam was all about basically trying to be Instagram for video. Twitch was basically all about trying to build a gaming community around streaming video games on the web. And so we set off and we do this, launch both products, and both products I think we kind of fell in love with. And so we were left with a situation, okay, well, what do we do? And Twitch was basically leveraging all of the existing Justin TV infrastructure. It was more or less a skin on Justin TV, whereas Socialcam was on a completely new stack. And so we decided the best thing to do would be to spin Socialcam off out of Twitch, which we ended up doing, and that worked out really well.
So let's talk about that point. How many employees did Justin TV have, and then what was it like after you spun it off?
The time of spinoff, I don't know, maybe somewhere between 35 and 45 employees, I think. And when we spun out Socialcam, it was with 4 people originally. And I don't know, it was kind of a rebirth. It was kind of, when you get to that number of people and you're CEO, like your day-to-day doesn't become, you start getting removed from the work. Other people are doing a lot of work, and you're kind of like making sure they're doing work, which doesn't feel like work. And so with Socialcam, it was kind of like all hands on deck, right? There were only 4 people, one of them left, so there were only 3 people, and it was just like, all right, everyone does everything. I think it was also weird, like when I started at Justin TV, I knew nothing about really product or tech. But over the course of kind of Justin TV, I had kind of picked up all these interesting ideas around how to build products. And Socialcam was kind of an opportunity to use them. And so, it was amazing. It was a lot of fun. It was a very small user base, of course, back then. But I kind of felt a level of freedom that I hadn't felt in a while.
And so Socialcam sort of had this breakout moment. How far after the spinoff was that? And can you talk a little bit about that?
Everything happened fast. Okay, so the spinout was official Feb 1 of 2012. We had also joined YC, and so we were going through the YC program at that point. We raised our angel round in April of 2012. We got a term sheet to sell the company in May of 2012, and we sold the company August of 2012. Yeah, it was really fast.
What? So I know a big part of sort of that hockey stick curve was when you finally got access to the whitelisted Facebook API.
Yep.
Can you talk about how you did that?
Yeah, so I mean, Facebook is this weird thing. Basically, they were experimenting with promoting video sites in the newsfeed, and the person who was basically whitelisting sites to be promoted turned out to be a classmate of mine. And when he chose a bunch of sites to promote, though, he chose our competitors and not us, which he never really told us why. And so one day we wake up and our competitors have this Facebook integration, and they're now the #1 app in the App Store. And we are like the 800th app in the App Store, since we're freaking out. And so we figure out what they're doing, and I figure out that my friend's running their program, and I give him a call, and I'm like, hey, can we get access? And he's like, sure, yeah, no problem. And so that was on a Wednesday, and on Thursday we didn't have access, and on Friday we didn't have it. And each of these days our competitors the #1 app in the App Store, right? So each of these days our competitors were getting 250,000 downloads, and we're getting like 5,000 downloads. And on Friday he's like, oh, it'll happen over the weekend. And we're like, all right. On Monday it hasn't happened yet, so we still haven't gotten kind of on the official list to get promoted. And so my co-founders come to me and they say, well, have you done everything humanly possible to get us on this list? And I'm like, well, my friend is working on it, and I've kind of pinged other people I know at Facebook, and they're like, have you done everything? And I was like, no, I haven't done everything. So then, depending on what version of the story you believe, either I drastically overreacted, or what I did shockingly correlated with us being approved the next day. But basically, I emailed every single one of our angel investors and told them to contact all of the senior management of Facebook to get our app approved. Which, if you understand what the senior management of Facebook is doing on a day-to-day basis, app approval, definitely not. Don't really give a shit at all about this. So all of these emails go to Sheryl Sandberg and Brett Taylor and all these people, and they all just get forwarded to my friend. And magically the next day we were approved. He says it just takes a while to work through the process. I kind of believe him, but and so we were approved, and then and then we were on a level playing field with our competitor, who was Vidi, and from then on it was just kind of like who's smarter as opposed to who's on a secret list.
So how many downloads had you cumulatively had up to that point, and then what was it like after you got on the list?
So we had probably about 3.5 million downloads up to that point, and over the next 4 months we probably accumulated approximately 11.5 to 12 million downloads. Yeah, it was big.
What was it like scaling that quickly?
It was awesome. It was sucked. So we were 3 people, and basically it was myself and 2 technical co-founders. One of my co-founders, a guy named Amin, he basically built the app and ran the entire video system. Another was this guy named Guillaume, and he basically built the website, ran most of the APIs, and ran the database. And basically, we didn't sleep for a month. We switched over to Amazon. It was funny, we had these conversations about how we would buy servers, and I remember the exact day because it was a Friday, and we talked at lunch. We were like, well, we're growing really fast. We're going to need to figure out this server problem right away. And there's a 2-week lag time on buying servers. And so at lunch, we decided, all right, we're going to put in a server order on Monday. And then at 4 o'clock, we were like, this is not looking good. And then by 6 o'clock, it was like, we need servers to now. And so the 2-week thing didn't work. And so we got on AWS that night. So we went from okay, we'll be good with servers in 2 weeks to, oh my God, we're dying. And then there was basically a month there, and this basically happened organically, where we went from working, I would say like not crazy hours, maybe 45 to 65 hours a week, to coming to work every day, pulling all-nighters like it wasn't even, like it was just like whatever, and basically working as many hours as humanly possible. And it was awesome. It was actually like some of the most fun I ever had. And it was all my technical co-founders. I mean, it was all Amin and Guillaume. They literally, just handled the shitstorm. And about a month in, things had started to settle down a little bit. We kind of got ahead of it a little bit.
So what was it like? What was the first contact you had with Autodesk?
I'm not sure how much I can talk about this stuff. So Autodesk originally saw that we had released a new set of features on our app. Basically the ability to create kind of cool title treatments for your videos and to insert soundtracks in your videos. They saw this on TechCrunch, and this is before we grew, before we raised angel funding, and they emailed us, and they were like, hey, let's meet up. And so, it was funny though, because we released these features for our iPhone app, and the corp dev person who reached out to us used Android. And so he's like, yeah, I saw this great stuff about what you built, but I downloaded your Android app and it's like really shitty. Like, where are these features? And so I demoed him the features, and that kind of began the relationship.
What date was that?
Sometime in April.
And then at what point, did they start to express interest to buy you
They
guys?
were expressing interest from the beginning. Yeah, I think that, as I learned more about the company, like they're very straightforward about their corp dev process, so yeah.
When what was the date where you got the term sheet from them?
Sometime in May.
And what was that like? What did that feel like?
It was crazy. There's so much. I can't go into details. Get me later, and I will tell you more in-depth stories. Needless to say, though, like every one of these deals involves this conversation where they basically force you to say the number you would sell your company for. And so there was definitely a conversation where I had to say, like, I would like $60 million for my company, please. And then just like see if they ever talk to me again, which is really weird. But yeah, no, it was, I think my takeaway from it is like, it's complicated. Like selling your company is complicated, especially when you're selling to a big company. It takes a lot of time. Everything has to be negotiated. Like every step took longer than I ever thought it would.
Was there ever any point during negotiations where you thought, man, this deal's going to fall through?
Yes. Yes.
Can you talk about it a little bit?
I felt like I was going to die. My girlfriend, thankfully, was out of town the day that I thought that the deal was going to die, which was great because I just basically like laid in my bed almost in tears. It was a low point. But like that's what happened. From YC we learned that, right? Deals fall through, and so we had a backup plan. It wasn't like it was we were going to be completely screwed, but it definitely was like, how do we get this far to almost screw this up?
When did you know for sure that the deal was done?
I knew for sure. I know the exact day and time. I knew for sure August 4th at 10:28 a.m. because I was in Autodesk's official new employee orientation, and it was very boring, so I was checking my bank account every 5 minutes to see if the wire came through, and that's when the wire came through. Up until that point, it really could have fallen through.
What did it feel like when you saw that happen?
It was weird because it felt good, but it didn't really feel like Like, to be 100% honest, it was kind of anticlimactic because like I'd been involved in this ridiculously intense negotiation for 4 months, and now it was kind of this feeling like, okay, well, what am I going to do with my life? Like, I mean, I still had to work at the company and stuff. I still work at Autodesk, of course. I still work on Socialcam, but like, this was an all-encompassing project.